All right, welcome back to Real Estate Bites. This is episode 103. I'm here with
Owen
my
Kruger.
friend and associate, Owen Kruger. Oh, sure. What was your name?
Owen Kruger.
His name's Owen Kruger. Hey, and we are going to talk about, yes, it's a seller's market, but we've got some recent examples where, our sellers, or the seller in the deal at least, believe that because it's a seller's market, they can call all the shots. And guys, it just isn't like this. So sellers, this one's for you. But before we get into it, this episode and Owen's Sanity is currently sponsored by Nicorette Gum. That's a joke. We're not sponsored by nobody here. So please don't get any funny shenanigans out there, Facebook police. But how's that going anyway?
What?
You're trying to kick this pouch addiction.
Yeah, it works.
It's working?
Yeah.
Good. And so once upon a time, I smoked also. I smoked cigarettes, and I could not, for the life of me, kick that. I must have quit smoking 500-600 times, and it wasn't until I chewed that gum like a sick, crazy man that finally helped me kick it. Nevertheless, man, we had that conversation. So I wanted to start talking about a deal that I was involved with where I had a seller, and then you talk about a deal where you were involved representing the buyers. So again, it's a low inventory market. I mean, we cover this week after week on this program, and prices have gone up because of inventory. Sellers are in the driver's seat because of inventory. But man, I've had sellers who believe that because it's a seller's market, that means they get to dictate everything in the course of a deal.
Right.
And in this first story, it cost my seller badly. This had a listing, went out to market. We were listed at 365, and we came to terms with an offer at 355. They did their inspection. They found, a defect in the home, and they asked for $5,000 back. My seller wouldn't budge. My seller got insulted that they would dare ask for anything when we told them it was an as-is sale, and absolutely wouldn't budge until the buyer walked away. A month and a half later, we finally got back under contract and eventually sold for $323,000. So my seller, indignant over somebody's request that she pay for a repair of a defect in the home, lost, let's do that quick math. What is that there? Right. If you do the 355 less the 5, 350 net, $27,000 in proceeds. $27,000. That pains me to say that number. It was heartbreaking. And eventually, the seller wanted to move on from this thing and had to, because the market wasn't bringing anything better to the table. But man, oh man, what a huge mistake, letting your emotions get the better of you. So tell us your story, Owen, about because you represented the buyer, right?
Yeah, I was on the buy side. So basically, I was working with the buyer, and we were looking at Avon. We went to look at the house. I think it had price dropped once. We wrote an offer. The sellers were insulted by the offer, and to the listing agent's credit, he was showing me comps. Unfortunately, they weren't actually closed, so I took it with a grain of salt. Went to my buyer and said, "Hey, I'm still confident on the number I gave you, but if you wanted to proceed, I'm happy to write me offers," and he trusted me. So we kind of waited. They liked the house, so it was worth waiting for.
Real quick, how much lower than list price did you write at? What was list price?
It started at 400.
Okay, where did you write?
335.
So where was list price when you finally wrote that first offer?
I believe it was at 379.
Okay, so you were $44,000 under list price.
Yes.
With that original offer. Makes sense. And how long had it been on the market?
A week and a half, 2 weeks.
Okay, so we're 2 weeks on the market.
Mm.
You write an offer significantly lower based upon what you saw as appropriate market value.
Right.
On the comps that you ran. You advised your clients as such. They listened.
Yeah.
You wrote that low offer, pissed off the seller. So you guys, what happened? I'm guessing did they counter?
They did not counter. They said basically it was too low to counter because they were insulted by it. But I told them, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll wait for price drop. So it price dropped again. I reached out. We were still too low. Then a week later, it price dropped again, and we kind of found somewhere we could meet in the middle and got it done.
Where was the middle?
It was 343.
343. So
Yes.
that's still 36 grand less than that list price where you wrote,
Right.
right, the very first time around. So real quick, some recap here for some lessons for the sellers and the consumers out there. For the sellers, it doesn't pay to overprice your home. You know, listen to your agent. If you got a good agent, and I know the agent that was representing the sellers there is a good agent. We're not going to name names here, but I know who it was.
Yeah.
He's a good agent. And, you know, I mean, to the point where he did his damnedest knowing it was overpriced to represent his seller to the best of his ability, to try and argue and justify the value of the list price, which he couldn't do because it wasn't worth it, clearly. And, you know, but if you list it too high, you're in for a lot of disappointment because we're still in a market, being this strong seller's market, where if you list it appropriately, the house is going to sell. And this is Avon, Ohio, right? So I have a number of people who live out of state who watch this. Avon, Ohio is probably, I mean, it's top tier suburb on the west side of Cleveland, right? In Lorain County right now, it's the most prestigious community in the county to live in. You know, I would say, you know, heading west of Cleveland, you got maybe Rocky River, Bay, Westlake, Avon Lake. Those are like the 5 top communities. You know, they're also, I know Avon is listed amongst, I want to say, if it's not top 10, it's top 20 communities in all of the state of Ohio to live. You know, it's a growing, burgeoning city. There's affluence there. There's plenty of shopping. There's freeway access. You got the state champs of football, the state runner-ups in soccer, all this kind of stuff. A lot of great stuff going on in Avon. But even in a prestigious suburb like Avon, if you overprice, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're going to sit on the market. You're going to get insulted by offers that are actually good offers because you didn't listen to your agent and you overpriced. Right. And then that just makes for a miserable experience, you know. So where did you end up selling again? What number?
343.
343.
Yeah.
So they originally listed
At 400.
at $400,000. They felt that they were confident going to market at $400,000, and eventually they sold for $57,000 less.
Yes.
So here's a story too. So another similar transaction that I dealt with, where it's similar to yours. This time I represented the buyer, and we got in. They were listed at $575. We got under contract at $550, but it was $550 with my buyer paying my commission, right?
Right.
So really not a whole lot off. If it was $575 with them paying my commission, there wasn't much of a difference between those two numbers. And during the course of the inspection, we found some serious problems. They ended up having to drop their price another $40,000. So we got out of there at $510,000. So they were overpriced $65,000 essentially from the get-go. And they were, this was the second time they were on the market. They were over $6 the first time they went to the market. They sat on the market for nearly a year, got 0 bites, you know. When they came back, we wrote in February, was the first time we wrote an offer, and we didn't close until late June. As a matter of fact, it was July 1st. We closed July 1st because we came back in May and rewrote our offer because it just sat. They had a couple price drops like you experienced, and it just sat on the market. And they got frustrated. And here's the saddest part about it. I mean, at least in my deal, they left 2 toilets full of their excrement because they were so angry about how it turned. Folks, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't leave poo in the toilet. I don't care how you feel you got done wrong on this transaction. Don't leave poo in the toilet, please.
Now, do you feel like that seller would have gotten more than what was offered if they would have priced it right?
There's a possibility. I mean, that happens all the time if you price it right, you know. I think the best strategy in this market is, you know, depending upon what your price point is, between 2 and 5% of top of market, depending upon, you know, if your home is in the right condition, price it 2 to 5% below top of market, and let the marketplace come compete for it.
Right.
It happens almost every single time. So if you're priced in that range, and you're in the right community, like Avon, you'll get a competition. In this house that I represented the buyer, I mean, it was beautiful, man. It was it was done to the nines. Like they had touched everything. Beautiful new metal roof, new siding all around, good workmanship. Every room, with the exception of one, was redone, and the one that wasn't redone wasn't bad. It was a really nice place on 7 acres out in the country. I mean, beautiful home. Yeah, if they had priced it appropriately, they would have sold it at or near list price, if not better, and it wouldn't have taken a year and a half, right?
Right. I think that's important too, because the market's always going to tell the truth. It doesn't matter what you think it's worth. The market's always going to tell the truth.
So I think that is the moral of the story. The market will tell you the truth. And honestly, that's exactly what I tell my seller clients when I advise on the list price and they want to see it higher. I say, listen, you're the boss. We can list it wherever you want. This is what I think is
Right.
the correct strategy and list price. And here's the reason why. Here's the data to show why I'm talking about what I'm talking about. But it's your property. You list it wherever you want. The market will tell us the truth, what it thinks about that price.
Yeah.
And that's the reality.
I think it's important when it comes down to that too, because I think sellers need to understand this, because if they list their property too high, they might think, oh, someone's going to meet them in the middle. But a lot of the time, the longer it sits, people start to think there's something wrong with it,
For sure.
or it's just overpriced. And some people won't even look at it because they don't want to insult you. You know what I mean? They don't want to write an offer super low. Some people will, but it's just sometimes it turns people off.
A lot of times it turns people off.
Yeah.
I've had that a lot on both ends, where I've had a buyer who liked the home, and I said, well, are you interested in writing off? Well, we don't want to insult them.
Right.
Don't worry about insulting them. Write where you think is fair, and if they don't like it, then we walk. And then I've had sellers who will get feedback and say, buyer loves the home, they just think it's overpriced, and my sellers will say, well, why don't they write an offer then? And I'll tell them, because they probably don't want to insult you. That's typically the buyer's sentiment. And it doesn't work out until they bring their price in line
Right.
with what the market is willing to spend.
The other thing I've noticed recently too is, like, depending on where you price it, if you price it outside of a certain price range, you lose a lot of those buyers because their max amount might be here. And then if you bring that price down, it just opens it up to everyone else. But if you're too high, they can't even look at it.
True story.
It's outside of their budget.
Yeah, it's over the parameter that they set their property search, right? It exceeds that money criteria, and so they don't even see that it's on the market.
Right.
Versus if it were in line with correct pricing,
Yeah.
they'd see it and they'd probably book a showing and maybe come write that offer.
Yeah.
So sellers, first of all, make sure you got a good agent, and then when you do, listen to them. They're not advising you. The good agent is not advising you for necessarily the quick sale, the easy commission. They should be listening to your goals. And if one of your goals, every seller wants to sell their property as quickly as possible and for as much as possible. And I know that at least here at this table, that's exactly what we're trying to accomplish for our people. We're looking at comps. We're sending you the comps. We're telling you, hey, this is what the marketplace is doing in your neighborhood or with similar type homes in your community. So this is where this is where I believe you should list your property. That's going to get the kind of attention from the marketplace that you need to get this thing sold quickly for as much as possible. And if you don't want to listen, you're one of those folks that are on the market 3, 4, 5 months, numerous price drops, a lot of hard feelings about the market. In the real tragic cases, you end up with hard feelings about your agent who didn't do anything wrong. You just didn't want to listen. So at any rate, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on.
Of course.
And
Thanks
sharing that with you. It's good. These are very important lessons for for sellers out there. Oh, and buyers. There's a lesson in there as well. If you're working with a good agent and you're looking at these homes and they show you comps and show you what they believe is the price, understand in both of these situations that we talked about where we represented buyers, we wrote an offer where we thought was fair. It didn't work out. We backed off. We went and we continued shopping. But Owen and I, both of us kept our eye on that property that we didn't win with the initial offers, saw that it stayed on the market, reached back out to that listing agent, and were able to put a deal together later on.
Right.
So that also for buyers is a strong lesson and something to listen to. Just because it didn't work out that time, keep your eye on it. If it sticks around, you might have an opportunity to get back in the deal again. Thanks again, Owen.
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate it, man.
Yep.
All right, now we are going to get into this past week's sales statistics. Let me switch the camera view. All right, and then I'm going to share the screen here. We'll take a look at what happened here in the marketplace over the last week in Lorain County. All right, so here we're taking a look at last week's sales. As always, I pull these stats from the MLS, and this is in Lorain County only, where I'm based, and so it's a real good sample set for the Midwest. All right, so this morning when I looked at these, there were 465 single families and condos on the market in Lorain County. This is a 25% increase in inventory year over year from last year. So there's another important thing to consider, sellers. You have more competition than you've seen since pre-COVID, all right? That's just the reality of it. So not only are you not in full control of a buyer's emotions and a buyer's decision makings and a buyer's terms, but you also have more competition than you've had in quite a while. It is still a seller's market. I talk about this every single week. The price keeps creeping up. It's a different seller's market than it was a year ago. It is not nowhere near a buyer's market, but the market has slid over to be more friendly towards buyers than it was a year ago. All right. 465 units for sale in Lorain County this morning. There were 79 closings last week. The median square foot of those closings last week was 1,905 square feet. The median sale price was $284,900. Again, we use median and not averages because medians get rid of the outliers on the top and the bottom, which might skew what is more of a typical sale here. So the median square foot value of sales last week was $169.88 a square foot. We are not far away from rounding out what is going to be the Q3 sales here in Lorain County. I'm looking to see what happens from the average medians going from Q2 to Q3. You can see we've got a handful here. Of the weeks recorded, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 7 weeks since recording. Actually, 5 of the 7 weeks are above last quarter's average median. Okay, so median days in the market, 22 days in the market, 22 days to go to market, take showings, receive offers, negotiate, accept an offer, and get through the contingency period, all right? That's happening in less than a month, just about 3 weeks. Interest rates this morning were at 6.62% for a 30-year conventional note, and the big sale of the week was in Avon Lake at $932,000. I lost that graphic. I don't have it to show you guys, so we're going to wrap up there. Hey, I appreciate you guys joining me. I appreciate Owen coming on and talking about this experience and the story he had with his buyer. Hey, listen, if you like this, if this information is good and worthwhile for you and the people that you know that have an interest in real estate, especially local Northeast Ohio real estate, please share this program with them. I appreciate you very much. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of one another. I love you, people. Until next week.